Welcome to Talking Real Estate with Champions Real Estate Team here at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner II, team leader here. We jump on every Wednesday and give you the rundown of what's going on in the real estate market over the last week. Joining me as always is Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage. So he'll kind of give us a rundown of what's going on the mortgage front. And we're happy everybody's joining us here after the 4th of July. Hope everyone had a great holiday weekend. I honestly forgot that it was Wednesday today. So I literally texted Russ this morning. I was like, oh gosh, it's Wednesday. We got to do our little video. In my head, it was like a weekend. I was like, oh, it's like Monday, but it's not. It's Wednesday. So happy hump day, everybody. But quick tip for today. We were talking about surveys a little while back. So what a survey is. So a survey is basically the land that you're essentially buying. So if you're buying in a residential subdivision, they usually have pins at the four corners, or if there's other corners of the lot, that exactly what you are buying. On that survey, they'll have easements, which is sometimes your utility easements, basically where the utility company can go by. You don't want to build anything on there. You could have encroachment, or if you have a shared driveway or things of that sort. So I know a lot of areas in the Omaha metro area, kind of in that midtown area, you may do a survey, you may share a driveway. And some of those points at that time, those fences or driveways have been there for 50, 60 years. And most people right now just kind of don't really ruffle any feathers. They kind of just do with it. But, if you're out in the country, I live on an acreage. We have 3 acres. When we bought our lot, we did a survey, cost about, $750, about $800 for them to come and locate all the pins, put the stakes in, and it shows, in our instance, our neighbor, unknowing to them, they had their landscaping about 10, 15 feet over the lot line. And that's just something that you want to address at the time that you're purchasing a lot. So some people are like, oh, you don't need to worry about it. Sometimes it does matter, talking with a real estate agent that, that has experience with that, know exactly what you're buying. If you're going to be putting in a fence, most fence companies require that, get the building permit so that you know where you're putting the fence at. Like my lot, for example, we have a gas line that runs down a corner part of our lot, and so there's a 50-foot easement, so you cannot build anything, a permanent structure on that 50-foot easement, or if you do and they have to work on their pipeline, they'll tear down your shed, and they don't have no responsibility to put that shed back up where you had it. So those are some things you want to be mindful of when you're purchasing land, lots, anything like that, farmland, so exactly what you're buying. And the old adage, oh, we go down to the oak tree over here to the building, and then here, and then that's my land. Well, make sure you get exactly what you got. So anyways, that was our quick tip for the day. So getting a survey and what that is. If you have more questions, feel free to give us a holler. So we will jump in and go into our graphics here and what the real estate market has been doing over the last week. So obviously we're in the 4th of July holiday here. So we had 406 new listings go live over the last 7 days over the holiday weekend. We had 395 new contracts be written, the one under contract there, and 417 happy new homeowners over the last week. So, a little perspective. So we had about 450 new listings the week previous, and we were going up, each week prior. And then our new contracts that were written were about 450. So we had that last week. We had the 1 in, 1 out. We had 1 in, 1 out. Basically, as we're seeing here on our graphics. So it's just a little bit lower, which is fairly typical for this time of year with the holiday, obviously with the 4th of July. We saw the same thing Memorial Day. If you guys are regular listeners or watchers or viewers here, you saw that same kind of thing. And I've seen that probably for the last 15 years. So I tell my clients it's hit or miss, if we're listing a house on the 4th of July weekends or stuff like that. So you get people coming in from out of town looking at houses. You get some people that are obviously out on vacation, going to lakes, going to rivers, all that kind of fun stuff, families, barbecues, and they're not thinking about buying a house. They're taking the weekend off. But the serious buyers are out there looking. Evidence of the listing that we had at Champions on Elm Street, the one's right down the street from Winchell's Donuts. We didn't have a whole lot of showings on it. It was listed at 245, and we had, probably under 10 showings, but we had, 4 offers. So what that told me is those handful of showings, those buyers were wanting to buy a house this weekend. We got a very strong offer on it. So that's why I say, even if you're, serious, get out there, when people aren't looking for those houses. So 30,000 foot view, graph really hasn't changed for the previous weeks. And I think I've talked about that before. It's just like if you're up in a plane, doesn't look like those cars on the interstate are moving very fast, but you get down on an overpass standing and watching them, those cars are flying. That's kind of what the market is, from this graph to the other graph. We're at 2,300 homes. in the Omaha Lincoln MLS, and we're at 1,357 in the Douglas Sarpy in the metro area. Our existing homes just under 550. Our new construction's down there. That was up about 826 last week. So we're down, and so that's kind of, people out there looking at those new construction spec homes and getting those off the market. And we're at 1.6 months of inventory. I think this is the first week that our average sold price has not gone up by $1,000 in probably, I would say, probably 6 or 7 weeks. Is what I've seen. So it's kind of like, oh, I was going to put up to 332, and it actually stayed at 331. So, but that may also because we didn't move as many houses in this last week. So still a great time to buy and sell. We'll jump on here with Russ and see how things are going on the mortgage side of it. So you're on mute, Russ, and you want to share your evident wisdom that you got on the mortgage side. So
mortgage rates are up just a little bit week over week. Part of that is because of a shortage of data. We did, of course, have the personal consumption expenditure report that was last week. That's the Federal Reserve Bank's favorite measure of inflation. And as we know, the Federal Reserve Bank is charged with trying to keep price stability, meaning keep inflation in check, and they've failed up until recently. But they like to focus on the core rate, which means when we strip out food and energy, what is inflation doing to the prices of goods and services? And it's a little bit above where they want it to be yet. And so they still think there's work to do. Now, keep in mind, Mark, we've had 10 straight increases in the Fed funds rate and the short-term rate. And the Fed took a pause in June. That was the first one that out of the last 11, that we didn't have a hike. They'll meet again later in the month of July. And they're telegraphing at this point in time, they want to raise it a little bit more. They want inflation to come down even faster than what it is. Mind you, we've had over 10 months in a row of consecutive drops in inflation. And we expect that will continue. But the Fed thinks they have more work to do. Of the 18 members at the Fed meeting, 16 of them thought that we should have at least one more hike. 12 of those 16 thought we should have 2 more hikes between now and the end of the year. But the 2 dissenters were able to fortunately keep folks from pushing up this last meeting and sit back a little bit and wait for the recent rate hikes to impact the economy. Why is this all important? Well, inflation is the arch enemy of mortgage rates. And anytime we see inflation, mortgage rates will go up. As we see inflation soften, go down, we will see mortgage rates go down. So the hope is that as we see the jobs report come out later this week and the retail and wholesale inflation numbers come out in the next 2 weeks, that we'll continue to see improvements in inflation, which will start to pay some dividends for mortgage rates. I don't think we're going to see them drop rapidly anytime soon, but we should start to see a downward trend, hopefully starting in the next few weeks. But there is still first-time home buyer money out there, subsidies, grants, etc. So for buyers that are looking at purchasing, this is a great chance to purchase a home and use some, in many cases, many cases, use free money to get it. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of that while the money's still there. It typically starts to burn out. A lot of it does anyway, as we get into the third quarter. So don't give up. Get with Mark and his team. Get out there, make offers on properties. You can use the subsidy not only to maybe buy down the interest rate, but also to cover some of your closing costs, your down payment, and even to cover appraisal gap. So make sure you use that free money while it's available.
Yeah. And I think right now, too, you start seeing a lot of people historically over my 15 years, and probably same with you, Russ, is that after the 4th of July, historically the markets the buyers have kind of slowed down a little bit, just for some, everyone's, getting geared. Now all of a sudden summer's not over, but in people's minds, hey, the big event's over with. Now we're going to go take family vacations. We only got a couple more weekends. A lot of the sports are done, and things like that, just the rec sports. Obviously you got club sports that are still going on. But, we would see a lot of activity slow down a little bit. But like you said, if the rates are going to be, the prices are still going to go up because you still have that activity. But if you can get out there and keep plugging and chugging, maybe get frustrating. I mean, I've had clients that have written, a handful of offers and you get frustrated, but it's like, you just got to keep plugging and chugging until that right one comes up. And it always does, there's things happen for a reason. And, I've seen that a bunch of times over my years in real estate that, people fell in love with a house that they didn't get. Unfortunately, they loved it. Then, something else comes up, a couple weeks later, and they're, that's even better. It's got better, the bones are a little bit better, newer furnace, new air conditioner, house is great, and all that stuff. And it's like, oh man, I'm glad we didn't buy that other one. We would have loved it, but this one's even a little bit better. Not that they're trying to talk themselves into that, because sometimes people are like, well, you get rose colored glasses after you get burned a little bit. But, so I think that sometimes if you just keep swinging out there, and moving in the market, and especially when some people may start going on the sidelines, be it interest rates, or it's, hey, we got vacations coming up, we want to spend the last couple weekends with our kids or whatever, or whatnot, doing that stuff. But if you get out there and keep the pedal to the metal, I just taught a real estate class, 11 points of seller representation on, was it Friday, Thursday of last week. And an agent basically asked me, he goes, is there data out there on houses that go active on Tuesday, that go on the market on Tuesday versus Thursday and Friday, on, when, if they, how many showings they get versus, the offers going up, and we kind of just talking in class with a handful of other agents that, the ones that go on the market on Tuesday and Wednesday, you got to explain to your sellers, hey, you might not get 20, 30 showings, but the people that are going to buy your house, the buyers that want to buy it, are going to be there. You may get 5 showings, but all 5 of those people are ready to rock and roll and buy that house. And from a buyer's perspective, you're only competing against 5 people. You're not competing against 20, that may throw some offers in there. And so it was just an interesting avenue of conversation that came up. So, but those are things that I talk about all the time when I'm teaching CE classes with different agents, and really try to keep a pulse on what the market's doing. And then I can translate that, over to my clients from a buyer's and seller's perspective of having that conversation. Does it make sense to go live on a Friday? Make sense to go live on a Wednesday, Tuesday? What are the pros and the cons of each? Because I had an instance where I had a buyer. We wrote a contract on a house that went live on Tuesday, wrote them a very strong offer above list price. I think it was like in the 250s or something, wrote up like $10,000 above. And then that agent calls me and goes, well, Mark, we, and I know he had multiple offers. He's like, well, we got more showings tomorrow, so we're going to see what comes out of those. And my client was just like, Mark, do we just walk away if they're going to try to, and basically what they're trying to use your offer to go, get more offers. And it's like, offer's a very, very strong offer. And it's just almost like sometimes people get greedy, and, if they come back to you the next day, well, our offer just changed, maybe you reduce it down because, so it's in that seller, in my instance, seemed like they were not happy with the number of showings they had, but they had, I'm sure, very strong offers between us and a couple. And the agent told me they had more than one offer, ours included. And so it was just an interesting mind game that the seller was, kind of playing. And ultimately, as a seller, sometimes we're at the mercy of what our client wants to do. But you have to take a look at the big picture, and you may have to, coach your sellers of, hey, we're going to get some strong offers, and then you make those people wait the next day, and it's like, they may go, a new house may come on the market, and they're like, you know what, I don't want to work with this seller if they're going to shop my offer around. So, but anyways, it just makes sense on all the different things that come into play with listing a house and buying a house in this market, and just knowing what's going on both sides of the coin. So happy to help anybody in that situation. So, but I don't know, that's kind of all I have this week. But Russ, you have anything?
That's it. Get some sleep. A lot of fireworks this last few days.
Yeah,
Catch
right?
up.
So, and I know some of them got rescheduled for this weekend, and even I know there's some tonight that just got pushed back from yesterday with the potential storms coming in. So awesome. We appreciate everyone jumping in and listening to us. And if you have any questions, give us a holler, and we're happy to